Hey there, welcome to your Tuesday. I'm Mo McClanahan and we are here with 2 for Tuesday. And I am the Director of Education and Training with the Safe Surfing Foundation. I'm also a high-tech crime specialist with the National White Collar Crime Center, and recently retired as a law enforcement officer where I worked the last 8.5 years working internet crimes against children. Here at Safe Surfing, we really wanted to make sure that we were using whatever avenues that we had, that we could reach more people to continue and educate on the dangers of the internet and on how to better safeguard your children from online predators. And when COVID hit, instead of coming to you in person, we decided to really pivot and come to you utilizing social media and hoping that we can reach more people and just continue to educate the way that we know how to. And so we're excited to host 2 for Tuesday every Tuesday at 8 p.m. EST, where we talk a little bit about a topic and then I provide 2 tips that you can walk away with to implement tonight on your children's devices. And when thinking about a topic for tonight, I was thinking about the interview that I recently had with the Catfish Cops podcast, so Catfish Cops 5.0 podcast. Over the weekend, we got chatting and we interviewed for a couple different episodes, and they put me on the spot and really just asked me, what are my top 2 tips? And it's really hard to narrow it down. And so I really was trying to think of something that was broad, something that I tell almost every parent. And these are what I came up with. So number 1 is that no child under the age of 13 should have a smartphone. And the reason being is because back in 1998, they came out with the Children Online Privacy Protection Act. And really what that was to put back control into the parents' hands of who gets to collect data on their children. And that is where all the social media comes to, where their agreement, you have to be at least 13 to be a user on those platforms. And that's really where it was developed from, is from the Privacy Protection Act. So when parents are allowing children under the age of 13 to create a profile, they have to lie about their age. And then these companies are collecting data on children under the age. And so it really took that control out of the parents' hands. And so I really just want to talk about that a little bit, because most parents don't even know about this Privacy Protection Act. They don't know why the apps have age range, and it's not like anybody's really policing the apps to say, you know, you're going to get in trouble because you're not 13 and you're utilizing it. But you have to know that there's specific avenues that they really put into play to protect the kids as best as they can. And so I always encourage that a child should use their real age on any of the social media platforms, especially when it comes to Facebook and Instagram. They really have specific rules when it comes to ages, like certain adults can't just contact a child if they have their correct age in there, if they're not friends of the family. Like, they have really strict guidelines, and they are actually protecting your child in some of these platforms. I can't say that for all of them. I just know specifically for Facebook and Instagram that it's, if their age is over 16, then they're pretty much treated more like adults. But under the age of 16, specific people can't just friend them. They can't have message requests from strangers, and they really do their best to protect them. So there's no reason to have a smart device under the age of 13, because mainly the purpose of having a smart device is having access to the internet and to all of the social media platforms. And so with that, I definitely get the questions that come back after that. How do I keep in touch with my child? How do I make sure that they're safe? How do I know where they're at if they're under 13? And my answer to that is that they still make flip phones. So making sure that you are, if your child is under the age of 13, you're gonna know who they're with. And if they're in sports, then their coach is going to have a phone. If they're in school, they will have access to phones inside of the school. And if they're at a friend's house, then I'm sure that the friend's parents will have a way for them to communicate. So, making sure that you know exactly how they can get in touch with you if something were to happen. But thinking back, when we were younger, growing up, we would run the fields and not have any phones to remind us to come home on time, and we would have to suffer the consequence if we came home late after dinner and lost track of time. So, really putting these devices in their hands is really stepping up their responsibility at a really young age. It's hard enough that they have to keep up with their Chromebooks from school at a very young age. And so putting on more responsibility, like a $1,000 iPhone, that's a lot. That's a lot for a kid. It's a lot for us adults. That's why we buy the protecting outer boxes or whatever kind of case that you put your phone in, because nobody wants that thing broken, right? So that's my number one tip. And, I've kind of stuck to that. I've stuck to my guns with that over the years. And once I really learned about the Privacy Protection Act, it was pretty much a no-brainer for me to continue to educate about that. The second is to either have a monitoring app on your child's device or have a set date and time that you are continuously checking the device. And actually that can be an or both. So even if you have a monitoring app, I love the monitoring apps that have been out there, and I really share specifically about Bark, B-A-R-K. They have really stepped up the game in what they're detecting when it comes to monitoring children's activities. My Mobile Watchdog is a good one. Life 360. Those are just several of the ones that I've really seen increase the connectivity and really the information that they're gathering. And the reason that I love the monitoring apps is that you can still give your child a device and you're still going to have the communication and the dialogue about, your expectations and really what the guidelines are when it comes to electronics, what they're allowed to do, so they know what they're not supposed to do, and communicate with them that there's a monitoring app on there. And that's really to protect them, because how great is it if a stranger does contact them and you're going to catch it in real time. If the monitoring app does grab that information, new apps are coming out all the time. But for the mainstream apps that we're seeing people and kids using, these monitoring apps are on the ball with that. And so they're looking for grooming, communication, text messages. They're looking for any kind of inappropriate images, or maybe they're going to specific websites that could lead them down a really dark path. And so they're collecting that and they're sending that to your device in real time. So I always pair that with checking the device though as well, because technology is not 100%. And if your child knows that you are checking their device and that you care about knowing what's going on their electronics, then they're going to be more responsible. They might try to hide stuff because that's what kids do. That's what we do. That's like their job, is to be one step ahead of their parents. But having that continuous conversation every time you check their phone to ask them if they've had any problems, if they've noticed somebody trying to reach out, what their action steps were, and maybe you can give them some steps on what they need to do next time. And that way they're not scared to come to you if something inappropriate happens to them, and you can take action from there. So I hope these were helpful. Again, these are my 2 biggest tips, and I really think that it can really stop your child being victimized, and it can really intercept the predator from getting to them before it snowballs and something happens. So again, having conversations around all of this, telling your kid that's under the age 13 why they're not getting a device. My child knows that he will not get a cell phone until he is driving, because he will always be in the company of somebody that has communication, like an adult or something. And so we continue to have this conversation. Why? Especially as he gets older and he starts seeing his friends have phones. It's a blessing and a curse to have a mother that worked internet crimes against children for so long and sees the dangers that are going on, and how the bad guys are continuously trying to find ways to manipulate our children, find the vulnerable, and prey upon them. And I'm not having it. So if you're watching this tonight and this was helpful, please share this, because I need you to be my ambassador for Safe Surfing, to be our voice to reach more homes and really just continue to educate, because this is not going away. Even though the kids are starting to go back to school, they still are doing work on Chromebooks. They're still connected to the internet. So let's do our part to take away that power from the predators and come back to it takes a village to raise our kids and to live in a very safe environment so they can just be kids, right? So I hope you have a great night and join us next Tuesday for 2 for Tuesday. Take care.